The Denver Broncos, over the past few years, with John Fox as their head coach, Peyton Manning as their starting quarterback, were in a win now at all costs type of mode. So you forsake the future, you go out and spend big in free agency, you make aggressive moves because you know you have a limited window, a limited period of time in order to try and win a championship. And that even includes making a coaching change, getting rid of John Fox before the 2015 season. Thanks, Denver, for that one. But ultimately, John Elway and the Denver Broncos, it was mission accomplished. Even with Peyton Manning, based off of his level of play, being one of the worst starting quarterbacks of all time to win a Super Bowl, which at that time he was. They won in spite of him, in no way, shape, or form because of him. They got the job done. But now you look at the Denver Broncos, Peyton Manning's retired. Brock Osweiler left to go sign for a big money contract with the Houston Texans and rip them off. You would hope maybe he would donate some of that to Hurricane Harvey victims, since he ripped that city off for so much. But for him to go to Cleveland and then be cut, and he'll probably be back in Denver for all the hell we know. But John Fox is gone. Gary Kubiak, who took him to a Super Bowl, he couldn't wait to get out of town. So now you're in a position where you've brought in a new head coach, Vance Joseph. You've got some major questions still at the quarterback position and what you're looking at there now and for the future. And you have a roster that has holes in a lot of places. And it's not going to be easy to address or fix them. And I don't knock John Elway for this in kind of the shape I feel like the Denver Broncos are in right now. But to me, they have a reputation for being a lot better than what they probably are at this moment. And that's some of the luxury that winning a Super Bowl just a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, affords you. But the fact is, this is not a great team, and I don't even know if they're a good team at this point. You did what you had to do. You threw in all the chips when you had to, and you got the payoff from it. Unfortunately, there's blowback from that, and some of those chickens come home to roost. And when you look at this team, I see some significant concerns about them heading into the 2017 season. Now, one of their biggest needs on either side of the ball was that offensive tackle, and they addressed that, I feel, relatively well in the first round of this year's draft by getting Garrett Bowles, the offensive tackle from Utah. Should be an immediate starter for them at left tackle, and a quality one at that eventually. Also, this team still has a great pass rush. Let's face it, when you've got Von Miller, you've got a franchise defensive piece. He is the guy you have to game plan for. He's the guy that can make other people around him better. You have Von Miller, you have something. You don't have Von Miller, good luck to you. And they still have a quality secondary with Aqib Talib and Chris Harris, Bradley Roby. I mean, yes, I know they just cut TJ Ward, but he was kind of a limited one-dimensional player anyways. But you take a team that can get to the opposing quarterback and a secondary that holds up really, really well and has some depth to it outside at the corner position. This is a team that could consistently be really hard to run on. To throw on. Problem is, on the flip side of that, their run defense was really soft in 2016, and I don't see where it got a whole lot better in 2017. Now they've started to lose some pieces in recent years, the Terrence Knightons, the Malik Jacksons of the world. They don't have that same quality of talent and depth on their front line. So I envision that area, the run defense, to be a problem again in 2017. Offensively, I still have concerns about their offensive line because they had major problems there last year, and I don't know if Garrett Bowles alone is enough to fix that. I'm also concerned about their run game consistency because whether it was Devontae Booker, whether it was C.J. Anderson, they just weren't consistent enough, just weren't good enough running the football to help out their young quarterback. Whether it be Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, it didn't matter. One of the best friends a young quarterback can have is obviously an offensive line that can protect him, but also a running game that limits his opportunities to make mistakes as a passer and protects him. And the Broncos just didn't have that consistently enough. And frankly, when you look at this team, how can you be all that incredibly excited about a team that has a quarterback situation that revolves around Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch. And let's say this. Siemian wasn't terrible last year, but he wasn't exactly great. He's the type of guy that you start for a certain period of games, but you are always looking for better and you are always looking to upgrade over him. And what type of indictment is it on Paxton Lynch at come year 2? He can't beat out a former 7th round pick in Siemian. It's not good. And that's really what this season is going to come down to. And I know it could be kind of cliche. You could say that about so many teams, but it is true. But when you look at it, you bring in a defensive-minded head coach. You're not bringing in some type of quarterback guru to run the show. And you've got what, to me, amounts to potentially a mess at the quarterback position with Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch. It doesn't matter which one of them starts. I mean, you've got talent on the outside in Demarius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. But again, you struggled to run the ball consistently last year. I don't see where you're going to be a whole lot better this year. You also struggled to stop teams on the ground defensively, which is not a formula for success no matter how good your pass rush, no matter how good your secondary is. Because if teams can control the clock on you, it puts more pressure on your quarterback with a limited amount of snaps. And then that's when you get into danger, because the fact is Siemian just isn't that talented, and Paxton Lynch is too scatterbrained to make a difference at this point. When you look at their schedule, I would say the biggest key block of games for them is in the first half of the season. It's weeks 6 through 8. They've got 3 straight road games, including 2 divisional games. They go to LA to play the Chargers. Then the next week they go to Kansas City. Then the following week they go to Philadelphia. So that's 3 straight weeks on the road. They start off on the West Coast. They go to the Midwest, and then they go to the East Coast. That's a pretty big ask right there in the middle of the season. 3 straight road games against 3 teams that all have better quarterbacks than the Denver Broncos. And yes, I'm even including Alex Smith of the Kansas City Chiefs there. That's how suspect this situation is. If this Broncos team goes into that 3 great game stretch, of road games and shows poorly and perhaps doesn't win any of them, then this season can unfortunately take a very nasty turn on new coach Vance Joseph very, very quickly. Now, I liked the hiring of Vance Joseph. I thought it was a solid hiring, but it doesn't mean it necessarily was going to pay huge immediate dividends in 2017, because I just don't see it. Yes, you have guys like Von Miller and Aqib Talib and Chris Harris, and you have Demarius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but there are a lot of holes on this team and not the appropriate amount of depth to fill in some of those gaps and some of those holes. And the most important gap you have of all is at the quarterback position. And folks, I just don't see where that's going to turn out well for this organization at all at 2017. I think the Broncos take another step back here this season. I think they're going to bring up the rear in this division and be lucky to win 6 games. Boom, I said it.